Matoran of YouTube Koro, the legend of Matanui, has been found! It's been nearly 2 years since I finished my journey to review every Bionicle game with Bionicle Heroes, or at least every game that's still functional. With all the work that marathon took, I was sorta hoping that I was done and I wouldn't have to do this again. But, at the same time, I knew I could never say I was truly finished, not with the legend of Matanui out there still waiting to be discovered. It was really only a matter of time. For those who don't know, Bionicle's launch in 2001 was planned to be a very big deal, not only with the marketing, web series and games and comics that we got, but a feature-length movie and a PC game known as Legend of Matanui, developed by Sapphire, who, from what I can tell, have developed nothing of worth besides a StarCraft and Oddworld game. It was an adventure game starring the Six-Toe Armada in their first quest to stop the Makuta, and it was very heavily advertised to be released at the end of the year. That is, until the game was quietly cancelled in October, leaving Bionicle fans hanging on to a phantom. And for the longest time, that was it. There were only a very select few number of beta discs released to the public before cancellation, and none of the development staff were leaking the game, so we had nothing to go on. All we had was one person with a copy uploading a low-quality playthrough on YouTube while simultaneously refusing to dump the files for all to play. No one ever gave up hope with all the stories of long-lost games being preserved, but it became clear that a dedicated hunt wasn't going to turn up anything. That is, until February of this year when all hell suddenly broke loose. Suddenly, a YouTube channel known as the Beaver House somehow acquired an early alpha build of the game, not only releasing it for everyone to play, but going through the extra effort to patch it and make it playable on Windows 10. I was considering reviewing it upon that build's release, but with how bare and content bereft it was, I felt like I couldn't give a fair and accurate opinion of what was there. I had figured this early build was the best we would get and promptly forgot until noted beta researcher Liam Robertson was on the case, not only releasing a video detailing the story of the game's development, but using that connection to acquire the most recent build of the game before cancellation, which was subsequently released and patched to functionality with help from the Beaver House. 16.5 years later, this game is finally brought to light, which means I'm pulled back from retirement yet again. Oh, but first things first, if you're trying to play this game on a computer with an integrated graphics card, manually set it to run on your better card instead. Some visual effects don't show up on an integrated card, and I think it runs smoother on a dedicated card, making the controls a lot more responsive. I wouldn't have even considered switching if OBS worked initially. I sort of figured a run-of-the-mill PC game from 2001 wouldn't be too taxing for an integrated graphics card, even with the patch running it at HD resolution. But now you know and won't make the same mistake. So, this is a stage-based adventure game, complete with a main hub, villagers, side quests, and items for traversal. Or rather, one item for traversal. Each Toa needs to collect a grappling hook to pull themselves towards these obviously marked cubes, with at least one section in each stage requiring it. There's also masks to collect, each of the Toa and Turaga's masks, all with their respective powers. And right at the start it looks cool, with Anua's Mask of Strength being used to dig through the patches of dirt to progress. Okay, it's situational, but it's fitting. Unfortunately, it drops off significantly after that. Nearly every single mask after that is situational as fuck. You'll use it once, if ever. Most of the Turaga mask powers, I have no idea where they're useful. I legitimately have no idea where you're supposed to use the Mask of Translation. Even the Toa masks don't get much use past the stage they're introduced in, even though they pass the full collection onto the next Toa. It's really unnecessary. I mean, there's no water anywhere past Gali's stage, so the Mask of Breathing would be worthless. The only ones that get usage are the Mask of Speed and the Mask of Levitation, just because you can break levels with those powers. Frankly, the whole adventure game aspect isn't necessary because that misplaced genre lending itself to that large mask collection. Yes, you can complete quests for the Matoran in each Koro, but every one of them is finding an item later in the stage and backtracking for a reward consistently no greater than mask energy and health. I'm not kidding, the same reward you'd get from killing standard enemies in nearly the same quantity. Unless you're a completionist for completionist's sake, there's seriously no reason to ever find or return those items. So the collecting is pointless, the quests are even less than that. It's going to be nicer to look at this game as a platformer rather than an adventure game. Well, guess where the game also fails. First off, the jumping is delayed, though much less so with the better graphics card. Combined with the lack of mid-air controls and small platforms, it makes platforming incredibly precise without the ability to do so. Early on, it's nothing more than a mild inconvenience, but with Leeward Stage having a high ascent all through platforming, it just makes playing the game a huge pain. In fact, the level design is just pretty bad. Like this section of Golly's stage where you not only need to use the grappling hook multiple times on a series of floating platforms, but need to rely on momentum of being flung forward to reach the next platform, something you can't always rely on working properly. Though of course I didn't have nearly as much trouble while recording, so I don't have the footage. And when you finish it, it looks like you're progressing when you enter this giant room. A giant room with one enemy, one item, and no way out besides the way you came. Every stage has at least one instance like this, with Kopaka stage being the worst of it. Of course, there were also corrupted Rahi to fight, plenty of them actually. In fact, there were only 3 certainties in life: death, taxes, and Rahi spawners in every Koro. That's how it always goes. You enter each Koro to find a handful of Rahi swarming around with these little caves that need to be destroyed or else they'll keep coming back. You need to destroy all the spawners and Rahi roaming around to free the Koro, and if you leave the room without doing it, they'll all respawn. Good luck if one of these bats just disappears entirely, or if you run out of ammo because the spawners can't be destroyed by melee attacks and enemies killed with melee never drop items. Hope you can find that one bat spawner on the ceiling that blends in. And the Rahi themselves aren't very fun to fight either. Each of them takes 3 hits to kill, easy enough, except that they all get a copious amount of invincibility after every shot, so either get used to that timing to hit stun them or waste a lot of bullets continuously shooting them. Or of course you could let them go free and find them later if you want to lose track of them and risk either losing them completely or allowing them to sneak up on you and score cheap hits. Because these guys are small and fast. If these little bug fuckers get close to you, they just dart around your feet too fast to hit, constantly scoring hits, and maybe you can escape. Or the bats that fly away every time you hit them, so you need either expert aim to snipe them or wait for them to sneak up behind you with the first hit. I think I can get my point across best describing what happened to me in each stage. A newer stage being at the start is the simplest, easiest, and most complete. It does a good job introducing the player to combat, Rahi extermination, quests with easy to find items, the grappling hook mechanics, and it extends from the beach, to the caves, to the climb up a mountainside. At the top you get to fight a giant spider boss too. Unfortunately, the items acquired aren't too useful. You start with the Mask of Strength, but also pick up Night Vision, which serves no purpose, and Invisibility is the same story. But, you know, it's a fun stage, up until this platforming section where the game crashes when you jump. Next up is Golly. I understand she doesn't have the Mask of Breathing at the start, but Anua can stay underwater forever in his section, so why is the Toa of Water worse? Well, besides that waste of time section I mentioned earlier, I also found this door I can't open, which goes great with this gatestone that I can't find the gatekeeper to give it to. And the game crashed upon attempting to leave this room here. Pohatu stage is an interesting one. Early on, it's got this section with a lot of boulders raining down, and if anything gets through, that's it. In the midst of all this chaos, I hope you notice that this isn't a section you need to complete, just wait for this door to open and get out. It's not easy to notice when you're so preoccupied with stopping the boulders and keeping your ammo up. After that is when you get the Mask of Mind Control, if you can get past the bullets swarming your feet like a bug, but not dealing any damage. I think they gave it the wrong AI. Anyway, this leads to a ride section that's kinda cool, but kind of annoying with all the split-second decisions and gaps hidden by the camera angle. Doesn't help that I always run into a glitch where gravity almost stops taking effect, leaving the bull floating in the air most of the time, and since maneuverability is cut drastically in the air, that makes the section a lot more challenging.
and then you get into the caves where it becomes impossible. No, dying does not fix this. Kopaka, oh boy. It starts with this tower to climb, and going around the curve is really awkward with how little the platforms extend from the tower. And you need to do it in order to open the path to the Koro, filled with these trees with the weird collision detection. After that comes these caves. Where do you go next? Just make a guess, who cares? The path I took led to a sledding section with worse controls than White Acropolis. It's a good thing there's no obstacles, or this would be infuriating. That's where Kopaka gets the Mask of Telekinesis with a nice ice block to use as a tutorial. Too bad the range on it is so bad. Delicate positioning is required to get it on top of the button to open the door if you ever see the damn thing. Follow that with a room that features grappling hook points onto platforms that don't lead to anything, and another sled section except with pits now, and you're dropped onto this balcony. I hope you notice what you're actually supposed to do before you jump off, because congratulations, you just jumped back just past the Koro, with no way back aside from redoing all of that. No glitch or crashing here, I just stopped playing this level of my own will. Liu's stage is a lot simpler. Right at the beginning is that tall ascent with a lot of small platforms and non-functioning collision detection. Honestly, I'm amazed I had the patience to complete this, but it's so close to the beginning, quitting would besmirch my reviewer's name. So, I persevered and I found vines to swing across. I'll be straight with you here, this part just doesn't work. It's nearly impossible to hit the platforms in a jump, even harder on a dismount, and if you miss slightly and grab the ledge, tough shit, it's too narrow to climb back up on. Even Mask of Speed cheating doesn't help. 3 rooms in and I give up on this level. Taho's stage is also pretty small. Hey, at least he only gets 1 stage this time. Ooh, isn't this a change of pace? Takoro is totally fine. And out of all the Matoran wandering around, of course, the only one you can't talk to is Jala. Anyway, this stage is special in that I have no idea what to do. I found the grappling hook, I got to the Koro, and that's all I got. I seriously can't find anything else to do. Even this platform, just out of reach with the Mask of Speed, doesn't look like it houses anything. And while you were still wondering what the point was, boom, crash. And finally, to close the game out, there's the obligatory Cannon's Core where the player switches off between each of the 6 Toa in their own challenge to find Makuta. It starts with Anua needing to grapple and jump across a row of platforms with one hell of a strict time limit. It gives you enough time to make one mistake and still possibly make it. Oh, but don't make that mistake in the second half where it's fatal. Crash. I really hope that all these crashes are the fault of the patch making it run on a modern operating system, because how the hell did Sapphire test this game with these major bugs all over the damn place? Hell, the most infamous bug it suffered made Anua's level, the first level, completely unbeatable, which was thankfully fixed in this patch. Now it's totally beatable. And when the stages do work, they're bad. Awkward at best platforming, repetitive structure, wasted items, blind navigation, stiff controls, and bad collision all make for a particularly unflattering combination. Does it at least look okay? Well, that depends on whether you prefer the more organic designs the movies went with for the characters or the recreations of the LEGO sets, because this game went for the latter. As for the environments, they look like a game of the era. Not one of the good ones like Metal Gear Solid 2, one of the average ones. As for the music, I don't know. It's very techno most of the time, a style that I do think does well in mixing the mechanical nature of the characters with the natural nature of the world they inhabit. I just don't know if it's to my taste. They also saved themselves money in not hiring voice actors, which I think we all know in hindsight was an excellent choice, if only it didn't result in the hellish noises of Kopaka. There's probably a few of you getting a little uncomfortable at my relentless criticism. With the defense, the game was unfinished. All these issues could have been fixed had the game been properly released. True, there is sense to that claim, which is why I didn't want to harp on the alpha that was released in February, but this was the most recent build of the game when the game was cancelled in October 2001, with the release set for December. Considering the time it takes to print and distribute the game, there was not much time left for development. They could have gone through bug testing, finished the final level, but the level design before that? That was all final. There was no fixing that. Even if the game had released on schedule, it would have been a poorly executed mess of terrible stages. So, The question of the day is, even if this game is bad, is it any better than the Bionicle game we did get? Well, I won't fault Legend of Matanui for adherence to the source. It feels like a Bionicle game. The look, characters, and atmosphere are all spot on. It's also the more ambitious project compared to this cookie-cutter platformer. But while Legend of Matanui is the better Bionicle game, Bionicle-The game is the better game. Give it shit all you want. I certainly had no shortage of negativity in my review all those years ago, but it was still a functional game.
We waited 16 and a half years, and this is what we get? Well, as an advocate for game history and preservation, I'm happy we got it at all, if only to satiate my curiosity. But for such an elusive white whale, the catch was absolutely not worth the investment. It's like the Bionicle fans' equivalent of finding one of those old lost horror movies and it turning out to be 2011's The Thing. Is that a weird comparison to make? Probably, but I'm tired. 2.5 years later, and I am still bound to this franchise. I just want to get this over with so I can call it quits. After all, it's not like there's another cancelled Bionicle game. Yeah, I should. Just to get it over with.
While Bionicle the game was flopping with critics and only selling marginally well thanks to its brand recognition, Argonaut was working on a sequel to be known as City of Legends. The project never got beyond this movement test starring the best character in the series Matau, and subsequently was never announced before Argonaut went under. We only know of the game's existence thanks to this test being found on an Xbox dev kit and subsequently released online. So why not talk about it in detail, even in a short video? Well, besides it literally being one room and therefore having nothing to talk about, it was an Xbox demo. There are currently no properly functioning original Xbox emulators to run it on, which leaves a modded Xbox the only option, something I don't have nor have even the slightest desire to get. Considering it was based on the 2004 storyline, it would have needed to be released in 2004, which means a year of development at most built off an already bad framework. I would have liked to see it. I mean, it's Bionicle Prince of Persia. Even if it was bad, it could have been the better 2004 Prince of Persia over Warrior Within.